Hi, everyone. Welcome to Spill the Tea Radio, where we interview awesome singers, songwriters, and those who influence their lives. Spill the Tea Radio explores the journey, creativity, and inspiration behind the songs. My next guest has a dozen platinum LPs from 75 to 88 under his belt with the legendary band Triumph. He has released 20 more solo projects ranging across genres. He's retired from touring, but still writes and records. He was a Guitar Player magazine columnist for over a dozen years, taught with Humber College music faculty, and is the Artistic Director Emeritus of the SongStudio Songwriting Workshop. He's just published his latest book, 10 Telecaster Tales. So let's spill the tea with Rik Emmett. Welcome, Rik.
Hi, David.
Well, Rik, it's a great treat and honor to have you come on the show. I have we're both from the same era. I've followed you and the Triumph Boys through your career. Love your music, of course. Always have it blasting on the terrace when I'm ready to have a great time and be in a great mood. So, congratulations on a wonderful career in the music business. And thank you to you and the boys for bringing us all those wonderful, wonderful songs over the years. One of the songs that is getting massive airplay right now is one of your songs that you wrote, Lay It on the Line, and it's part of the NHL playoffs. Now,
Yes.
when we know the lyrics to Lay It on the Line, has nothing to do with hockey.
Well,
but that
it has to do with, life. It has to do
yes.
with truth, like getting right down to it, So I think probably I can tell you the story behind how it all came about.
Yeah, how did that come about, getting
Yeah.
that
So
airplay?
last year, we got asked by the producer of Hockey Night in Canada segments if we would participate in the Hall of Fame weekend, and they wanted Triumph to sort of show up on camera and talk a little bit about what hockey in Canada has meant to us. And of course, there's players from back in the era that when we were kids, they're now going into the Hall of Fame, and Triumph had gone into the Walk of Fame and the Hall of Fame, and that's part and parcel of the whole Triumph rigmarole. So then people go, oh, Hall of Fame, yeah, let's get now. It turns out that it's not just a producer of the segments that likes Triumph. One of his main editors is also a guy that loves Triumph. And then there's one other guy, and these are all at Rogers Sportsnet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think with the playoffs coming, my guess is that the editor, who's like the guy that puts together those bumpers packages that you see when they're going to commercial or coming back from commercial or whatever, throws, whatever you want to call them. So I think he probably said, listen, I could cut something really sensational together about Lay It on the Line, like the energy of that song and the playoffs coming. And I think his producer said, man, go for it. So they cut it together. It looked great. And they go, awesome, And then meanwhile, it starts and my phone never stops blowing up. It's like emails and texts from everybody. They're going, Rik, you're a rock star again. We're hearing your music.
Congratulations on that. Let's talk
Thanks.
about the book. The book, 10 Tales. Why that book now? Why write it today?
Yeah, well, I was designing a guitar, which if I had it handy, I could grab it and show it to you, but it's up in the other room. It was a Telecaster style guitar. And as it was being developed, we had moved out of this house because it was getting renovated. My wife wanted a big Muskoka room out the back heading towards the pool and all that stuff. And then we had an interior decorator that had been walking around the house. And when I was this small room that I'm in now, this sort of library area, it had two windows where those stairs are.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, if you're going to be building this, large thing and laying a foundation at the back, you might as well come up with a second story and give yourself the studio that you always dreamed about. You complain about being in the basement like a troll, we'll put windows all around it. It'll be this beautiful thing. And I went, okay, let's go for it. So the studio was being built. We had to move, and we were living in a Airbnb barn out back of one of the old Century homes in downtown Burlington. And I was writing tunes and thinking about these Telecaster guitars, and I thought, I could probably write the pieces in a way that I could record them all on the one guitar. When I get the new guitar, I'll try to record them all that way. Hey, in my new studio, once I get my new studio built. And then I thought, and of course I made a deal with ECW Press where I put out a book of poetry and then my memoir. And I tend to be somebody that just keeps writing. I'm a creative entity, and so it's just the way I operate, that I'm always writing. So I was writing more poetry, and it was COVID times, and we weren't living at home, and it was, so it was a sort of a dark period. But as this project developed, I was going, boy, this could be I think ECW Press, the guy who's my editor, by the way, is a guitarist. So, it's not too hard to sell when I go, yeah, I'm thinking about doing it so that I could have a CD that goes in the back of the book, or people could get it from streaming and we can sell paperbacks and he downloads. And he's going, okay, I love this idea. I said, okay, but will you take another book of dark poetry as part of the deal? I'm not going to give you something nice unless you give me something, because they're never going to make any money printing poetry books, right? So I go, here's the deal. It's another 2-book deal. They go, okay, you're in, Rick. That's great. We'll do it. So that was sort of why it all happened. And I wrote the book about the writing of the songs, about the making of the guitar, about self-indulgence, essentially, David.
In the book, you recount the story of how Telecaster was named after a dispute with Gretsch guitars. Can you give us part of that story and how that all came about?
Well, of course, Fender Guitars was Leo Fender in Fullerton, California, and yeah, it was the 50s, sort of the 49, 50, the advent of television, and everybody was starting to think about Sputniks and satellites and rocket ships, and of course here's television. The images are beaming in waves across the earth, and so yeah, Leo wanted to call his guitar. He was the guy that sort of invented the first solid body electric. Like it looked very much looked like this, right? A Fender Telecaster guitar, and that's exactly what that is. And it looked pretty much like it had a different switch, but anyways, so Leo goes, I'm going to call it. Well, first of all, it had no name on it at all. And they called them Esquires. But then he was changing the pickups, and when he was going to go to a kind of a production line deal, he thought he called Broadcaster. Gretsch. It wasn't Gretsch guitars. It was Gretsch musical instruments. They had a set of drums. Gretsch had the name Broadcaster as the thing that and that was the drum set, were the Broadcasters. So they said, Leo, you can't use our name. That's our name, and we have copyright on it, and we'll sue you. So then Leo got all the guys to cut the name Broadcasters off the decals, so that on the headstock it just said Fender, and it didn't have a name, and they called those no-casters. So he had to get rid of the Broadcaster thing, and then he picked Telecaster, and it became a kind of an industry standard. And it's existed all of these years. Still one of the best guitar designs that exists. And they got a lot right the first time they did it.
You have a nickname for the guitar. Tell us how you came up with the name Babs.
So this is a custom designed guitar that kind of is a hybrid between a Gibson Les Paul in terms of pickups and bridge height and scale length from the nut to the bridge. And then all the rest of it's like a Tele. So Teles originally were made with maple necks and a butterscotch kind of finish. So, and they called them butterscotch blondes. And so originally I was calling it butter. because of the butterscotch nature of the way it looked. And then I was doing it the way Mike Myers used to do this skit on Saturday Night Live where he played his mother-in-law, Linda Richmond, and she would be going, oh, and she loved, oh, Barbara Streisand. I love Barbara Streisand. So I'm going, okay, because I was calling the guitar Butter. It's Butter, and then I go, Butter. I go, that's Barbara Streisand. I go, hey, Barbara Streisand's nickname is Babs.
Babs, yeah.
And then there's an acronym that exists, Butter, Scotch, and Blackguard. So it was Blackguard and Butterscotch. And I went BABS. I went, I'm going to call it Babs. So there you go.
So now her name shall be known as Babs here on forward.
Yeah.
You chose a local company to work with you on this guitar. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's Lucene or Lucien?
Lucene
Guitars.
And it's the maiden name of Garen DeKessian, who is the luthier that built the guitar for me in Oakville, Ontario, Canada. And
why did you choose to work with them?
There's a guy that does my I have an endorsement deal with a pickup company called MJS, Mike Smitty Smith. And Smitty is like a pickup guru, but he's a luthier as well, but he doesn't want to build guitars anymore. It's, he just wants to do his pickups and he makes good money doing it, So I said, well, Smitty, you're sort of like my consultant here, what do you think? He said, well, there's a couple of guys in Canada. He says, locally, I think Garen could do a good job in Oakville. So, and I knew Garen. I'd met him before and talked to him, and I went, okay, well, let's have him do it then, because I had another guitar I'm going to show you. Smitty and I had worked on doing this, and it looks all old and beat up, but it's designed to look that way. This is because I wanted a guitar like Ed Bickert had. And I was never going to get Ed Bickert's guitar after he passed away. So then we designed this thing together. And this is my Bickert guitar. It says right there. There's the Bickert sticker. Mm-hmm. So after we'd done that, I said, okay, now I want to do another one, and he said, okay, well, we'll get Garen to build this one. Those parts for that one came from the States. So we went, let's be very nationalistic. Before the whole anti-Trump thing happened, I was still a nationalist. Mm-hmm. So I went, I'm going to be really Canadian here. It's all Canadian, all parts, all work. So there you go.
You started the Babs project in 2021, and you began writing the music as Babs took life. How did the music evolve over time from the concept to the birth of Babs?
Well, it continues to evolve, but you come up with ideas, and sometimes I just put them on my iPhone voice memos, or I scratch something in a notebook, just to get an idea down, and then I start taking the ideas and seeing if I can integrate them in order to create cohesive kind of wholes of things. And I get them to a certain point, and then I do demos of them. Yeah, and then it's like, okay, I think we've got a record here, So here's the thing about you write a piece of music, you record it, you write a book about it, you go out, and then I go, well, it's not going to be real unless I go out and play a couple of gigs. So I don't tour anymore, as you said earlier, yep. But I decided, I'll go down to the Redwood Theater in Toronto, East End of Toronto. It's a nice little place, got a nice stage, got a decent PA. The booker is a guy that I know, Bill King, from years back.
Yeah.
So I went down there and played 2 nights. And in order to prepare to play the songs, like 10 songs that I'd never performed live before. So I had to woodshed these things for, a couple of months. And that was hard work, but it was teaching me stuff about the songs. Like they're evolving to another point. Then you go and you play and you run that gauntlet, that ordeal by trial by fire. And then you realize, you know what? Like there's things about these guitar pieces, like little things, like an intro where you go, I kind of want to take my time to get into the tune. I don't want to just start cold. So you add a little something. Or you get to the tag and you go, I think I want to get a little busier and hang on the tag for another 16 bars. So you start adding things and you go, huh, there's a reason why musicians say you're not ready to record until you've taken it out and played it live in front of audiences. And that kind of experience forges the material in a new way. But what I've realized is this: they'll keep changing it for the rest of my life. The music that I've written, it keeps changing.
You created 10 compositions to go along with this, with the book. Um, I'm going to ask you, and this is kind of like asking you, which is your favorite child? Which is your favorite out of the 10?
Well, I have different favorites for different moods and different times. And then as I go back and I'm playing, here's an interesting thing. My wife came and saw one of the nights that I played live, and there, I'd hired a road manager, my old friend that came up from New Jersey, and I said to Kathy, which song did you like the best? And she said, well, I really like that swirling song.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, swirling, eh? And so I said, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to woodshed that a little bit more because I got a chance next week. I'm going to be doing another set of recording of the things live for which you can lift these things and you can put them up on social media. So, oh, swirling. So I revisited it and I go, yeah, this is a pretty good one. But I could do that with any of them. And if you're asking me for my favorite, I would say from an intellectual point of view and an emotional one, I would choose the Winter Nocturne, which closes the 10.
Closes the 10, yeah.
Yeah, from a mood point of view, that one's the most evocative for me.
In your book, you liken the odds of success to Ty Cobb's lifetime batting average, and that he failed about 60% of the time to achieve that over 300 batting average. And also, how many sperm it takes to create one human being. Is the success you had with Gil and Mike with Triumph during those years, is it similar to those stories? Is it a one in a million to make it? And why were you guys so successful when other bands failed?
Yeah, wow, that is really a good question. And I don't think I can give you a definitive answer, but I'll take a shot at it. Um, yes, the Triumph success story is similar, but when you're talking about a business enterprise, it's a different thing than an artistic creative thing. Certainly, uh, different than when two people are trying to make a baby. you know, uh, when you have three guys that are trying to make a baby called Triumph and you're trying to make it be successful, there's a lot of stuff that enters into it. Now, I will say this, and I'm going to pay tribute to my partners there. Uh, the combination of our skills and mindset, but especially Gilmore's persistence. He was a guy that really believed in that if you just kept trying, it was going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to stick to your guns kind of thing. And I'm not necessarily as much of a stick to your guns kind of guy as Gil, but it was a good partner to have because I'm sort of somebody that's very creative. I keep coming up with ideas and throwing things. Now, when Triumph first started to have big success. Just a Game album, 1979, the songs Hold On and Lay It on the Line. I had been arguing with those guys for 3 or 4 years, sort of saying, like, you guys don't have the right idea about where you're trying to take this band. Because they called it Triumph, and they had pictures of like a devil's head on their promo stickers, and he had horns and a forked tongue, because they wanted it to be like Kiss and they wanted it to be like Hellfire. And I go, that's not what this is. Like, and that's not the way we're going to get on radio, and that's not the songs that I write, and that's not the way that I sing. You're going to have to trust me on this. I'm going to write songs that are going to work for us and get us on radio. And they're going, I don't know, Rick, Rocky Mountain Way, we got on the radio. And I'm going, yeah, it wasn't our song, it wasn't us necessarily figuring out how we make all of this stuff integrate.
Right.
And I go, you want to call the band Triumph, you got to have a song like Hold On to Your Dreams, because then this is the triumph of the personal spirit, and the guys went, well, okay, Rick, hold on. They weren't, lay it on the line. They went, okay. And I go, see, the song's about integrity. That's really what that song's about. Just give me the truth. And I go, Triumph is a long way from the truth with its flamethrowers and its flash pots and its, smoke and mirrors. Like it's a lot, but we've got to make it so that the songs have an integrity. And it took me a while to convince them, but of course, once we had some hits on the radio, they went, okay, Rick, you're a genius. Great. So, but that's part of it.
Rick, how do people find out more about you and your music and this project? What's the website? What are the streaming platforms? Where do they go to find the book? Give us the lowdown.
Okay, so, I have my own website. You can find these things at rikemmett.com, RIKEMMETT. But, there's also people that do merch for me, and you can, find those things online. The books get printed by a company called ECW Press. So you can find a Rik Emmett page on ecwpress.com. Yeah, just Google 10 Telecaster Tales, and you're going to be able to find whatever you need to know. And if you just type Rik Emmett into your search engine, you're going to be able to find your way to all kinds of great stuff.
We have been in conversation with legendary Rik Emmett from the band Triumph. Rick, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, David. It's been fun.